What's going on, everybody? It is Rockets Daily, brought to you by FanArch. I am your host, David Delano. Go ahead and like and subscribe. We definitely appreciate it. Appreciate all the comments that have been coming in. So just continue to help us grow, and hopefully, let's get to 1,000 by 1,000 subscribers by opening night, preseason opening night. Yeah, let's do it. Thanks so much again. We've been talking about our top 10 Rocket centers of all time. Definitely, we're going to get into that just even a little bit more. One little final touch on it, and appreciate. Still, feel free to leave your top 10 Rocket centers of all time. Did have a comment, had Otis Thorpe in there, and I want you to know I definitely appreciate that list. Otis Thorpe has not been forgotten at all. Him, Elvin Hayes, guys that you could put, at the power forward position, center position. Obviously, Hayes, early in his career, and I talked about on yesterday's episode, mostly at the beginning of his career as a center with the Rockets. So I put him in the list as a center. Otis Thorpe, played both positions, but I'm going to have him in the power forward. So Otis Thorpe definitely not forgotten, but, you can put him in a power forward. You can put him in center. Really can't go wrong there. So definitely appreciate all those comments. And speaking of centers, let's go ahead, and we've been talking about this EuroBasket a lot, but it's meaningful basketball that we have to talk about here in September. And Turkey is in the semifinals. Sengun led Turkey to another win yet again in the quarterfinals. They took down Poland 91-77. Had a game high efficiency rating of 33 in this game. And on the night went 6 for 14 from the floor, misses only 2 3-point attempts, 7 for 9 from the line. But another big game, 19 points, 12 rebounds. 7 of those rebounds were off on the offensive end, and also 10 assists. So Sengun messed around and had a triple-double in this game against Poland, 91-77. Also had a comment as far as, I had Sengun reluctantly 7th on the list for the top Rockets of all time. Had Dwight Howard number 6. And I just looked at it and I was like, well, I mean, that's probably something that hopefully by the end of this year, not even the end of this season, will no longer be president. But I'm just kind of looking at this for what guys have done for the Rockets. If nobody ever played a game, kind of irrelevant because we're planning on Sengun to do a lot more, and from signs to come. Will I have him higher on the list after this season? Absolutely. I was just looking at all the playoff games that Dwight Howard has played. But what's next up for Turkey is going to be Greece, led by Giannis. And at the time you're recording, got some games going a little bit early, midday on Wednesday to see who is going to be in the semifinals of this EuroBasket. But what's next up for Team Turkey? They're playing Greece, playing against Giannis. That time, though, not yet has not yet been announced. Greece took down Latvia in the quarterfinals matchup. So Greece got the win, 87-76. So what is coming up next is going to be a showdown with Sengun and Giannis, and we'll see what happens when these guys get into the regular season with playing all these extra games. But Giannis, huge game. He had an efficiency rating of 26, not quite as high as Sengun's, but he had 29 points on 9 for 15 shooting, 11 for 16 from the line. Giannis, though, just 6 rebounds and only 2 assists, but was a team effort. Had a couple of his brothers on the team. One for, let's see here. And sorry, I'm laughing a little bit because I see Thanasis actually did not play in this game, but has a spot on the roster. So it's going to be exciting to see what happens here on Friday. Greece versus Turkey in the EuroBasket tournament. And speaking of, as we've been talking about this, Hall of Fame. A couple former Rockets got into the Basketball Hall of Fame this weekend. Um, Rockets weren't really acknowledged. Dwight Howard and Carmelo Anthony. Um, Dwight Howard, they show the video. Basically, with Dwight Howard, respectfully, everything that I really saw was mentioning was, basically through the Orlando Magic. Dwight Howard's played for a lot of teams in his career. Got the ring at the end with the Los Angeles Lakers. Had some interesting time in Houston, but definitely was some fun years with the Orlando Magic, and then went to the Lakers for that year. A little bit turmoil with Kobe. 3 years with the Rockets, season with the Atlanta Hawks. A underrated, forgotten season with the Charlotte Hornets. We had a 30-30 game. Washington, very briefly, a few games there. But Dwight Howard, and just one of those things, just how do you remember really the Dwight Howard era in Houston overall? It seems like it wasn't so long ago, but I guess it was. And a lot of excitement for this year coming into the with the Rockets, because I'm looking back even at this Dwight Howard era. Obviously, had the heartbreaker with Dame Lillard hitting that three with the series with the Portland Trailblazers. But that second year, with Dwight Howard, Rockets went all the way to the Western Conference Finals, but lost in 5 games to the Golden State Warriors. And when you really look at that, Dwight definitely had some struggles from the free throw line in that series. But overall, had some strong moments. But you look at that team, the fact that that team even went to the Western Conference Finals at that time. You had a team with not just James Harden and Dwight Howard, but Jason Terry, Trevor Ariza, Josh Smith, Corey Brewer, young Clint Capella on the team as well. And that team went to the Western Conference Finals, lost in 5 games. And then the next year, Dwight Howard's final year with the Houston Rockets, that was the 2015-2016 season, and then ran into the Warriors again, but not in the Western Conference Finals in the first round this time. And lost that series in 5 games. And I do remember there towards the end, with Dwight Howard, as far as getting touches, game really starting to change as far as with just the way that he played. But man, 14 rebounds per game in that final series, this final year with the Rockets, 14 rebounds per game, 13.2 points. But one thing that I do vividly remember was how much of a liability Dwight was at the free throw line in that final series really of his career with the Rockets. Shot 36.8% from the free throw line on more than 7.5 attempts per game. And then obviously the Carmelo Anthony era. They mentioned a few more teams, at least in the intro video. Obviously, talked about Denver. Most of the time focused on New York. I did see some Oklahoma City Thunder Mellow clips briefly, some Laker clips, I believe, and also Portland Trailblazers, but nothing with the Rockets. And I definitely understand that 2018-2019 season, only 10 games. And that was a weird fit. So I kind of wonder, what if with Melo at that time, only giving Melo 10 games, it seemed he definitely got a bit of a raw deal overall. You kind of wonder why he was even brought over to Houston in the first place in that year. Did finish that particular season, that 1-for-11 game with 2 points, and then was basically done. But did Melo did have a 28-point game against the Brooklyn Nets. Made 6 from 9 threes in that game. But you kind of wonder the 2018-2019 season, what possibly could have been. Lost to the Warriors in the second round of the playoffs that season, that 2018-19 season. And in the playoffs that year, the Rockets were led by Harden, followed by Eric Gordon, Chris Paul, P.J. Tucker, Capella. But, bench with Austin Rivers, Daniel House, Amon Shumpert even. I don't know. It would have been interesting to see a little bit of a what if. I don't think there would have been a difference with the Rockets winning a championship that year. I don't see it. I don't see that that's something that would have happened. But would have liked to have seen Melo a little bit to at least get that full season with the Rockets, and it'd been interesting to see how that would have developed. So I guess it's just to kind of think about if you ever have any what if moments or memories of that Melo season and how you remember Dwight Howard. And yesterday, as I talked about the top 10 Rockets centers of all time, and we got to the end there, and obviously we knew Olajuwon was going to be number one, and went a little bit more in depth with some of the other ones, but that's because I did want to touch on Olajuwon a little bit more in depth and where he ranks, not just, obviously he's the number one Rockets center of all time, but where does he rank amongst the all-time centers? Everybody could do it a little differently when you rank your top players of all time. It's always tough with the guys that you didn't really get to see. Sometimes it's easier to rank the guys that you actually saw play. One guy that I didn't really get to see in his prime, but I don't have an issue with rating Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. When you look at the six-time champion, I believe six MVP awards, college accolades, everything, is the top center of all time on my list. But Bill Russell, Wilt Chamberlain, guys kind of in their own lane. Wilt Chamberlain, they talk about how Giannis would average 50 points back in the day. That basically was Wilt Chamberlain. Definitely a guy who I think could have played today, but ahead of his time. And Bill Russell, it's hard to go back and really compare. Definitely a pioneer of the game. Things were different. I mean, for guys to be able to go through what he went through at a time where, even being discriminated against for being a black man in the NBA and dealing with the racism and all the different things that just players of that era dealt with, I think not really fair. So give Bill Russell, Wilt Chamberlain their flowers. But when we get past Chamberlain, you get past Russell and Jabbar, we start to talk about the centers after that. And I may have some people who agree with me on here. I think a lot of the consensus, if we did a survey, just with most people, where they rank Shaq ahead of Olajuwon, I think a lot of people would take Shaq. For me personally, it's Olajuwon. And I think just early on, getting into basketball, that NBA Finals between the Rockets and Orlando Magic, really one of the first just watching. But one of the reasons of really just diving in and really having a vivid memory of it and even going back and watching it. And when you look at the numbers side by side, obviously Shaq has the 4 rings, Olajuwon has the 2 rings. But Shaq, Olajuwon had another finals appearance. Now Shaq, he also had another finals appearance there. But 15 All-Star games for Shaq, 12 for Olajuwon. But one of the reasons that I give Olajuwon the nod, they both have a MVP award. Shaq 3 Finals MVPs, Olajuwon 2. Shaq 8 first-time All-NBA. Olajuwon with 6. However, you've got all first team defense. Olajuwon 5 times all NBA first time defense. Shaq none. And when you look at just all defensive teams, beyond the first team, Shaq does have 3, but Olajuwon has 9, and Olajuwon has 2 defensive player of the year awards. None for Shaq, and as dominant as he was, Shaq never led the league in rebounds. Olajuwon did twice. Shaq never led the league in blocks. Olajuwon did 3 times. So just for me personally, it's going to be Dream over Shaq for me. But the steals, Dream about 3 times as many steals as Shaq. So it's Dream for me, and he got him head in. I know that later on, if you look at the head-to-head numbers, Shaq, they can say, well, Dream got Shaq when he was young, but then Shaq got Dream a little bit later when he was old. At least as far as when the playoffs and in regular season. But it's going to be Olajuwon for me. Personally, let me know in the comments what you guys think. A couple other things that Shaq does, that Dream does have over Shaq. When you just look at the whole, NBA playoffs in 1988, Dream 37.5 points per game in that playoffs, 16.8 rebounds, and 1990 5.8 blocks in the 1990 playoffs. So let me know what you guys think about that. A lot to talk about going forward. Turkey and Greece coming up on Friday. Let me know any thoughts about the Hall of Fame, any good memories that you guys have, or any what if moments, or just any memories on your mind, or how you remember Carmelo and Dwight Howard's time with Houston, and just overall as players. And let me know in the comments, is it Dream or is it Shaq for you all time? Thanks so much for watching Rockets Daily. My name is David Delano. Appreciate it. Go ahead and subscribe. We got more for you coming tomorrow. Be safe out there.